Alright, ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome. Schubert here with my first ever attempt at a tutorial video. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can use a wheel and pedals in Grand Theft Auto 5. There are a few different ways you can approach this problem. One of them involves using ScriptHook and a mod. I do not know how to do that, but I will link a video in the description below if that is something you're interested in. What I am going to be doing is something a little bit easier and a little bit simpler, using a program to emulate a 360 controller. Now, being that it is my first ever attempt at a tutorial video, it's going to be kind of raw, but hey, I have something to work off of. I'm kind of cheating a little bit and using a video that I saw several years ago, but don't worry, I'll link that one in the description below as well. Just in case there's something that I say that doesn't make sense, you can go ahead and watch that one. If you do look in the description below, the first link you will see is actually to the program that we need to use. It is called Toca Edit Xbox 360 Controller Emulator. And like I said, this program is going to help us make it so that our wheel emulates an Xbox 360 controller. The first thing you will want to do before you even look at that program is set up your wheel. Just make sure it is functioning, whether that's through the control panel or checking it in another game. Just make sure it is connected and working properly. Then, once you download that program, you can unzip it and you will see that there's an exe called X360CE_X64. This can be placed into your Grand Theft Auto 5 directory. So where the game is installed, go ahead and put it there. There is a way you can do it without it being in that file, but this takes one less step. It really does. So might as well put it there, right? Once you have that downloaded, once you have that unzipped, you can see here I have it in my game directory. You can go ahead and open it. Now, I'll give you a little bit of warning. I'm going to click a button very quickly, but I'll explain to you what it does. So this little pop-up happens. I click create right away. And what that does is creates this DLL file right down here. And the reason I click it really fast is because I want it to go away before this next pop-up happens, which basically tells you that the program has detected your wheel and it wants to know if it can search to the internet for settings or browse your computer. We'll just have it search to the internet, as most of you, I'm guessing, will not have any settings on your computer anywhere for it. So we'll just hit next and hit finish. If we delay and we allow that second pop-up to overlay the first, what happens is you get an error afterwards. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I don't know if yours will have that issue, but for some reason my computer has that issue. Of course, you can see down here that I downloaded this in 2015, so yeah, it's been a while. Once you have this program downloaded, once you have it installed and you're opening it up for the first time, you're greeted with this nice bright screen. Sorry, there's no night mode for this one. Before we even begin, I want to go ahead and give you a do not do this sort of explanation. Do not hit clear. Over here in the lower right, let me bring your attention over here. You have auto, clear, reset, and save. Do not hit clear. It will mess you up. I'll explain a little bit why I hit clear and what it did. I hit clear because I wanted to be able to calibrate all of these settings fresh. I didn't want to have any issues with any remaining controls that I missed. And so naturally I'm like, oh, I'm just going to hit clear. But it also clears some other very important settings. The biggest one being your left thumbstick. The left thumbstick, if I switch this tab up here, you can see you have all these tabs. The left thumbstick has an anti-deadzone. Anti-deadzone? Anti-deadzone, who cares? It has an anti-deadzone of 23% or 7536. I did not know that. When you hit clear, it clears that anti-deadzone. And your steering will feel like shit in the game if you do this. If you clear this, it will feel like garbage. I mean, everybody has their personal opinions, but honestly, having this down to 0, when I got into the game with my steering wheel, it felt like I had a massive dead zone. It was really weird. So please, for your sanity as well as my gray hairs I've accumulated over the last couple hours, do not clear this dead zone. I mean, you can mess with it as much as you want, but don't clear it. Let's go back to that general tab. We'll take a look here. We'll start calibrating everything. The first thing I like to do is get rid of anything that is an axis. So I clear the X stick, which is going to be your steering. I clear the left trigger, which we know in Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to be your brake. And I clear the right trigger, which we know in Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to be your accelerator. The video that I'm basing this off of, I thought the gentleman in question made it seem a little bit more difficult than it had to, basically because one of the things he was doing was going over here to where it says Thrustmaster TMX Racing Wheel. If I click on this, and he was trying to match up these controls here with what you find in the lists over here. Of course, that doesn't help you because that goes off the screen. Great first tutorial, Schubert. Good job. Slow clap. He was trying to match all of these settings up. So then what he would do is see that, okay, well, the steering is this. So then we'll say the brake is whatever. So I'm going to select that axis. There's a slightly easier way, and that is if you click on the drop-down menu and you click record, you can just press on the accelerator and it records it. Now, sometimes, as you can see here, it records it as a half instead of inverted. There are two ways you can change that, but the easiest one is just hit record again and step on it again. And now you'll see here I'm stepping on my pedal. Here I'm not. Here I'm stepping on my pedal. Here I'm not. It highlights it when it's active. As far as the brake goes, hit record, step on the brake, boom. Now when I step on the brake, it lights up, showing me that it is activated. If for some reason it messes up like my accelerator did, there are options you can select in here, such as inverted, half inverted, or half. You can play around with those if you're one that fancies just trial and error, or if you really know what you're doing, go ahead and select the right one, I guess. For me, the right ones would be I-axis 6 and I-axis 2. Those would be my inverted axes. Axes or axes, I don't know, whatever. Now, for the last axis that we want to deal with, and that is our steering. We'll click on stick axis X, and we'll hit record, but pay attention here because there's a little dot that's blinking on the thumbstick over there. So that means we must turn the wheel to the right first before we turn it to the left. Now you see it's all set up. And for me, it is H-axis 1. If you accidentally hit record and you see the right one is blinking and you turn it to the left, now I'm backwards. Here, I'm turning my wheel to the right, but the stick is actually going to the left. So make sure that when you are recording this, you turn to the right first. You see it worked there. Now it's working there. And we're good to go. Okay, now that that is set, I'm going to work left to right in a counterclockwise motion. With the bumpers, I like to just use those paddles in the back of the wheel for the bumpers. So for the left bumper, there's the left paddle. If I go ahead and set the right bumper before I make my counterclockwise movement here, if I go ahead and set the right bumper, you'll notice it actually interferes with the stick button down over here. Both of them are button 2. That's okay, because we're going to clear that one. Button 7 as a back button and button 8 as the start button are already set because I am using a Thrustmaster that is an Xbox controller. If you're using the G29, which I have done, it does work in this program. I just want to reiterate that. If you're using a G29 or a G920 or any other kind of racing wheel that is not Xbox based, of course the G920 is Xbox based, I'm doing great today. But anyways, if you're using a wheel that is not Xbox based, you might have issues with this. You might have to calibrate these things and set these things each one at a time, which is fine because then you know what's what. We can select the guide button. Hold on, let me look at it. I gotta lean way over to look at it. And if you're using the G29, you don't have to worry about this D-pad quite as much. If you're using the Thrustmaster, you do. You want to make sure that the D-pad is set to D-pad 1. And I'll explain that when I get to these keys over here. It's a controller. They're not keys, they're buttons. What the hell am I talking about today? Whatever. Let's move on. We already did the steering with the analog stick. And now we're to the stick button. You want to make sure you do select these because if you're going to play this in the single player, and especially if you're going to be driving as Franklin, you want to make sure that you have these as buttons you can press so you can activate his skill. So what I do on the Thrustmaster is just hit record, and then I select those lower buttons to the left. So I select the left button and I select the outside one. Same thing goes for the right stick. I select the right outside button. I know I'm doing great on my first ever tutorial, aren't I? Now, as for me, on the Thrustmaster, because it is an Xbox controller, I do not have to reset any of these buttons here. The A, B, X, Y are already set. If you're using a G29, which is of course PlayStation, so you have X, circle, square, triangle, you will have to reset those. And I realized I skipped over the D-pad. So let me go back to that real quick. Why do you have to have D-pad 1 on the Thrustmaster? Well, if you clear this, if you clear D-pad 1, and you are trying to reset these, like if these are all clear, you will have issues when it comes to right and down. For some reason, you have to have the D-pad over here selected as D-pad 1, which I do believe is your only option, before you can select these, because you can only do the up and the left, and then the right and the down, they just plain don't get recognized for some reason. I don't understand why, but that's just what happens. If you want to take a further look at all the different options within this program, I will just point out the fact that you can have 3 different controllers all set up at the same time. For instance, I had originally, when I plugged in my Thrustmaster, the shifter and then a side panel from SciTech. I had a side panel connected along with the shifter, and I think, this is me thinking, again, it's kind of hard to do, kind of hurts, but I'm trying it. I think what happens is basically you can set different controls to different things and it will act as one controller. That's how I think this operates. So if I wanted, let's say, the joystick on my SATEC side panel to be my right analog stick, I'm pretty sure I could do that. So I could use that to look around and stuff as I'm driving if I wanted to. I'm just saying, that's my thought. That's what I'm assuming is going on here. I think that if you connect another controller and you set it up with those controls, it's going to reset your previous. So for example, right now I have my Thrustmaster connected. I think that if I were to hook up my G29 and come back in here and reset things, then everything's going to be set for the G29, and I'm going to lose everything for the Thrustmaster. That's what I'm assuming, because that's a safe bet. That way you know to stick with one controller and not try to switch it up between others, especially if you're doing something like, hey guys, I'm going to be streaming in 5 minutes, and I'm going to hook up this wheel instead of that one, and all of a sudden you're like, well, my wheel isn't working, what? Oh, and then you waste like a half hour of your stream trying to figure out what you did wrong. Make sure you set this stuff up anytime you switch controllers. Once it's all said and done, go ahead and hit save over here in the lower right. Of course, like I said, you can check out all these other options if you really, really want to. The only one that really matters is make sure the left thumbstick has a 23% frickin' anti-deadzone. You'll hate yourself otherwise, trust me. It was garbage when I tried it the first time, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. Click save over here in the lower right. I like to click save a couple times in this program just to make sure it worked. We're going to close the program. We don't need it to be open when we play the game. Another thing you can do, if you have a Logitech or if you have a Thrustmaster, you can select in those programs what your turning radius actually is. For me, as of right now, I like to set it at about 360 degrees. The actual turning of the wheel in the game is only 180, but I feel it's a little bit more realistic if I turn it up just a little bit more. And so far, I'm at about 360. I might even crank that up higher. Like, if you really want to get realistic with it, you could put it to like, let's see, what is it? 360, 540, 720, 900? Is that the proper ratio? You could even set, you could set it up there wherever the hell you want. I think if you really wanted to feel realistic gameplay, man, you would set that up to like 900 degrees and just go. Once that is all said and done, we can go ahead over here. Click on Steam. I don't know why I have the hourglass instead of the spinny thing. And we can click play on Grand Theft Auto 5. All right, just to show you how all of this is going to work out, I got my punk-ass looking dude here in the online mode. As terrible as it is. Not my guy, I mean the online mode. As terrible as it is, I'm going to go ahead and show you that this setup will work. As of right now, it will work both in the online mode and in the single-player mode. Shut up. This is why I don't play online. Too many distractions. I will try to figure it out if it works in FiveM or not. As I think I stated, I don't really care about LSPDFR. It's a cool mod, and I'm glad a lot of people enjoy it. It is just not my style. As you can see, I kind of like orange in that little bit of a gunmetal gray. I don't know why. I just like it a little bit. Don't you think? It's cool. Yeah, whatever. Let's check it out. We'll get into here. Oh, first I better do this. Yeah, I don't want to fucking die right away. Think I'm silly? Once we get outside, I can take a look down here and you can see I turn the wheel to the right. Looks good. I turn the wheel to the left. Looks good. I don't want to do a challenge. You can get the F out of my face. I should have just gone into single player mode. And I hit the accelerator and it looks good. Now, I could have even gone higher than the 520 because honestly, if you are going to drive around in the first person, even the 520, did I say 520? Honestly, I could have gone higher than the 540. I could have gone to 720 or even up to 900 because if you're going to drive around in the first person, it feels so amazingly realistic. I know I said that kind of weird, but I don't care. we're coming to the end of my tutorial video. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see more, let me know. I do think I got to refigure out how I can work in some track IR into this game, so that could also be another video. I feel like I've gone on a little bit too long already for this one, but I hope people enjoyed it. Initially, this is just for friends who have been wondering about this. They didn't realize you could use a wheel in the game. But if more people want to see more, tell me more, baby. You just gotta let me know.